This is the AB4WS radio show. Every week, bringing you the exciting amateur radio news and information happening in the greater Cincinnati, Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana areas.
The AB4WS radio show can be found on the Apple Podcast app or your favorite podcast application. And now also available on the AB4WS radio show YouTube channel. Sad news that Alan Morgan, KY10, the ARRL Kentucky section manager, has become a silent key. Alan has been fighting some health issues for some time. Alan had served 2 stints as the ARRL Kentucky section manager, most recently starting in April of 2025 and previously from 2017 through 2019. He was a past president and vice president of the Woodford County Amateur Radio Club. Alan was a former military police officer and a former professional firefighter in Lexington, Kentucky, as well as a volunteer firefighter for several Central Kentucky Fire Departments. Alan was an extra class operator, first licensed in 1978. Alan had a Bachelor of Arts degree from Eastern Kentucky University in Fire and Safety Engineering Technology. Alan had worked as a broadcast engineer at WVLK Radio. He also had worked as an OSHA safety senior consultant with the Kentucky Labor Cabinet. Our thoughts and prayers to Alan's many family and friends. The Dixie Heights High School Amateur Radio Club, KY4DH, had a field trip on September 27th to the Big Bone Lick State Historic Site to activate for Parks on the Air. Park US 3779.
CQ Pota, this is KY4DH, Kilo Yankee 4, Delta Hotel.
Alpha India 4, Bravo Juliet.
Alpha India 4, Bravo Juliet, this is KY Kilo Yankee 4, Delta Hotel.
Give him a 5x9.
QSL, you are 5x9, 5x9. Just a few miles north of you in Burlington, Kentucky.
QSL, you are 5x9 in Kentucky.
Roger the 5x9. Have fun with your activation. You picked a great day for it.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks for hunting today, 73.
5 participating students worked 155 stations from all over the world, including 3 Canadian provinces, Sweden, Spain, Italy, Spanish Morocco, and several countries in South America. They also participated in a fox hunt during the event where they tracked down radio transmitters, sort of like an electronic game of hide and seek. Everyone learned a lot and got some on-the-air experience for the upcoming ARRL School Club Roundup, which will be held on October 20th through the 24th. Please listen out for KY4DH during the School Club Roundup. They appreciate your contacts. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration, known as NASA, is seeking volunteers to passively track the 2026 Artemis II Orion spacecraft as the crewed mission travels to the moon and back to Earth. The Artemis II test flight will send NASA astronauts Reed Wiseman, KF5LKT, Victor Glover, KI5BKC, and Christina Koch, along with Canadian Space Agency CSA astronaut Jeremy Hansen, KF5LKU, on an approximately 10-day mission around the moon. Targeted for no later than April of 2026, the mission will rely on NASA's Near Space Network and Deep Space Network for primary communications and tracking support throughout its launch, orbit, and re-entry. However, with growing focus on commercialization, NASA wants to further understand the industry's tracking capability. Collaboration opportunity builds upon a previous request released by NASA's Space Communication and Navigation Program, SCAN, during the Artemis I mission in 2022. 10 volunteers successfully tracked the uncrewed Orion spacecraft on its journey thousands of miles beyond the moon and back. One of those volunteers tracking in the 2022 was Scott Chapman, K4KDR of Montpelier, Virginia. Sometimes it's what you don't know that makes this kind of activity interesting, said Chapman. All I had was a small S-band dish and a receiver and wasn't sure if I could hear or couldn't hear. But when I started hearing the signals, it made everything worth it. If you're interested in volunteering for next year's event, all of the information can be found at sam.gov. The response deadline is October 27, 2025 at 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Steve, NATFD, is looking for some amateur radio operator volunteers to come out and help with communications for the Queen Bee Half Marathon on October 11th. If you can help Steve out, email him at n8tfd@fuse.net. Tim Lawrence, W4TWL, is looking for amateur radio operator volunteers to assist with communications for the Honor Run Half Marathon on November 9, 2025. The run starts and ends at the Florence Yaw Water Tower. Volunteers are needed to report to their stations at 6 a.m. and will be finished by 11 a.m. This is a great event to volunteer for, even if you've never done something like this before. First of all the proceeds go to funding the Honor Flight Cincinnati, where veterans get to visit their various war memorials in Washington, D.C. Usually this event yields enough donations to fill up one plane load of veterans for the honor flight. Second, this is an easy, no-stress event to get your feet wet on working on public service event. If you're not comfortable with the idea, Tim can even pair you up with someone who has done the event before at a station to help you gain experience for next year and other events. If you would like to give it a try, reach out to Tim, W4TWL, at W4TWL@yahoo.com. Get ready for the Simulated Emergency Test, known as SET, on October 4th and 5th, where Aries and emergency communications groups demonstrate their abilities to provide communications to the served agent. Time now for your group to start planning their participation in the SET event. For more information, go to awrl.org/simulated-emergency-test. The Ohio SET is scheduled for October 4th and will be based on a major solar flare hitting the Earth, which knocks out the Ohio MARC public safety communication system as well as the cellular system. The Ohio SEC is asking for counties to send a SITREP message via voice, digital, or WinLink, and suggesting each county make their own plan for this event. This could include local repeaters, simplex, HF, voice, or digital. Is your county ready? October 5th is the Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club monthly Simplex Net on 146.580 at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, which is always held on the first Sunday of the month. They invite any licensed amateur radio operator to join them by checking in. Perhaps you cannot hear the net control station at your location. Well, no problem. Just listen and eventually you will hear a station who will start taking check-ins and relay it in the net control. The net starts by stations who can hear net control. Then each of those stations put out calls and take check-ins from stations who can hear them. Then the next set of check-ins will be asked to put out calls and take check-ins for the stations that can hear their station. After the net, you can then post who you were able to hear in your net report on the NKARC groups.io page. This is an effective way to test your equipment and to learn how you can use your equipment if something happened and the repeaters were all off the air. It is also a great training opportunity. A pro tip is to open up your squelch on your radio. You'll be surprised at how many stations you'll be able to hear in the noise that was squelched out. So the first Sunday night of the month at 6 p.m., tune your radio to 146.580 and join the NKARC Simplex Net. Cuyahoga Falls Amateur Radio Club will be conducting live online classes for you to get your technician class license. The class will be held via Zoom and run for 6 weeks from Sunday, October 5th through November the 9th. Sessions are from 1:30 p.m. to 4 p.m. All ages are welcome. For more information and or to register, go to tiny.cc/BAHAM. On October 6th, the Moorhead Amateur Radio Society will be meeting at 6 p.m. at the Farmers Fire Department, number 2, 4450 Kentucky 801 in Moorhead, Kentucky. They'll be discussing updates on the club station, the 2-meter repeater, and other business, and then a presentation on the 13 colonies, state QSO parties, and other operating events. An amateur radio mode that some thought had been abandoned is making a comeback, especially in the greater Cincinnati area. That is the return to keyboard packet radio activity, and Ted, AB4WS, is trying to gather packet radio enthusiasts and those interested in packet radio together to have some meaningful discussion on how to move the area's packet radio forward and perhaps connect Cincinnati back up with the rest of the state and others. Last week, he held the first Zoom call where 13 stations checked in and discussed the packet radio environment in the area and suggested possible ways to improve upon what is already established. Ted is planning another Zoom call meeting, with the next one scheduled for Thursday, October 9th at 7:30 p.m. For more information and how you can join in on the discussions, check out the invitation on the WG8Z Packet PBS or contact Ted, AB4WS, over WinLink. On October 11th, the Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club will be holding a Parks on the Air event at US 3779, the Big Bone Lick State Historic Site, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. So if you're interested in Parks on the Air, or you want to see what this radio thing is all about, come on out. Even if you don't have a ham radio license, we may be able to put you on the air with a control operator. It's lots of fun to play ham radio in the park. On October 11th, the Brunch Bunch will be meeting at 1 p.m. at the Price Hill Chili, 4920 Glenway Avenue in Cincinnati, Ohio. Come on out and join some great hams for some great brunch. Are you interested in the new world of Mesh-tastic? Well, on Monday, October 20th at 7 p.m., the Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club will be meeting at the Bethesda Community Church, 989 East Mount Zion Road in Independence, Kentucky, and the club will have a presentation on a beginner's guide to Mesh-tastic by David, KY4DM. The meeting is open to anyone interested in Mesh-tastic. If you're interested in Mesh-tastic, come on out and learn all about this new form of communication. Heads up reminder to the Okayan Amateur Radio Club meeting on November 4th will be held at the Laughlin Church of the Nazarene, 335 West Wyoming Avenue in Cincinnati, Ohio, due to the normal location being used for Election Day activities.
Repeater news.
The Walton, Kentucky 53.85 KG4MVN repeater is back on the air. Fire up that 6-meter FM equipment and check it out. Transmit on 52.85, listen on 53.85. No PL tone needed. Are you looking for the most up-to-date list of repeaters in the greater Cincinnati area? Well, I have an Excel spreadsheet where I've listed repeaters that are active in the area, separated by tabs for each band or mode, so you can easily look for just DMR repeaters or 2-meter analog repeaters and so on. The list includes 2 meters, 220, 440, 6 meters, D-Star, DMR, C4FM, P25, and some other classifications. Every time I update the file, I include the date and the file name so that you know you have the latest update. To download the file, go to the AB4WS Radio Show Facebook page and go to the file section and download the file. If you're not on Facebook, email me at ab4ws.radio@gmail.com and I can email you the latest file. If you see any errors, problems, additions, or corrections, email that information to ab4ws.radio@gmail.com.
Hamfest.
October 4th is the DX Workshop Operating Specialty Convention from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Central Time in the Warren County Public Library, Bob Kirby Branch, 175 Iron Skillet Court in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Talk in on the 444.300 repeater with a PL tone of 179.9. For more information, visit wkdxa.org/events. October 4th is the Northwest Ohio Amateur Radio Club Hamfest at the New Hope Christian Center, 2240 Batty Road in Lima, Ohio. Talking on the 146.670 repeater with a 118.8 PL tone. October 11th is the Williams County Amateur Radio Association Hamfest at the Williams County Fairgrounds, 619 East Main Street in Montpelier, Ohio. Talking on the 146.82 repeater with a PL tone of 107.2. On October the 11th, from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. is the Po' Boy Amateur Radio Tailgate Hamfest at the Laurel County Library, 120 College Park Drive in London, Kentucky. Talk in on the 146.610 repeater with a PL tone of 103.5. October 12th is the Ashland Trunk Fest at the Ashland County Fairgrounds, 1740 South Bainey Road in Ashland, Ohio. Talk in on the 147.105 repeater with a PL tone of 71.9. October 25th is the Hazard, Kentucky Hamfest at 1700 North Main Street in Hazard, Kentucky. For more information, contact Johnny, KY4JLB at JLB741@yahoo.com. On November 8th, the Grant Amateur Radio Club will once again hold the famous Georgetown Hamfest at the ABCAP building, 406 West Plum Street in Georgetown, Ohio. Lots of door prizes will be given away. An amateur radio exam session will be held by the Highland Amateur Radio Association. Talking on the 146.73 repeater with a PL tone of 162.2. For more information, contact Ken, KD8FKU at KD8FKU@gmail.com.
Are you looking to upgrade your license? Do you have someone else that's interested in the hobby? Here are some upcoming exam opportunities.
The Milford Amateur Radio Club holds amateur radio testing on the third Thursday of each month at 6 p.m. at the Miami Township Civic Center, 6101 Meyer Drive in Milford, Ohio. Please pre-register at milfordhamradio.org. The Dayton Amateur Radio Association has exams frequently. For their exam schedule, email exams.w8bi@gmail.com. On October the 9th, the DeForest Amateur Radio Club will hold an amateur radio exam session at 6 p.m. at the Adams County Emergency Management Office, 31 Logan's Lane in West Union, Ohio. Please pre-register by emailing K8WEH at K8WEH@ARRL.net or on the K8GE.net website. On October 11th at 10 a.m., the Scott County Amateur Radio Club will host an amateur radio testing session at the Georgetown Police Department, Georgetown, Kentucky. On October 11th at 9 a.m., the Tusco Amateur Radio Society will host an amateur radio testing session at the Dover Faith UMC, 420 North Wooster Road in Dover, Ohio. Walk-ins are okay, and for more information or to register, go to w8zx.net/exam. On October 15th at 6:30 p.m., the Cuyahoga Falls Amateur Radio Club will be holding an amateur radio exam session at the Cuyahoga Falls Public Library, 2025 2nd Street in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. You must pre-register by emailing education@cfarc.org. On October 20th at 5:30 p.m., the Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club will hold an amateur radio exam session at the Bethesda Community Church, 989 East Mount Zion Road in Independence, Kentucky. You must register by going to hamstudy.org/sessions/NKY-VE. On October 25th at 10 a.m., the Wilderness Road Amateur Radio Club will host an amateur radio exam session at the American Legion, Post 46 in Danville, Kentucky. On October 28th at 6 p.m., the K4TG VE team will host an amateur radio exam session at the Anderson County Extension Building. Use the rear entrance in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. On November the 8th at 10 a.m., the Bluegrass Amateur Radio Society will host an amateur radio exam session at the Red Cross Building in Lexington, Kentucky. On November 17th at 5:30 p.m., the Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club will hold an amateur radio exam session at the Bethesda Community Church, 989 East Mount Zion Road in Independence, Kentucky. You must register by going to hamstudy.org/sessions/NKY-VE. On December 11th, the DeForest Amateur Radio Club will hold an amateur radio exam session at 6 p.m. at the Adams County Emergency Management Office, 31 Logan's Lane in West Union, Ohio. Please pre-register by emailing k8weh@k8weh@awrl.net or on the k8ge.net website. On December 13th, the Scott County Amateur Radio Club will hold an amateur radio testing session at the Georgetown Police Department in Georgetown, Kentucky. Special thanks to this week's content contributors: WB8VNH, KY4GW, WB8YYS, KD8ZLD, K9HIO, N8LAR, K4NKU.
If you have something you think other amateur radio operators in the area would be interested in, send the information or your recorded audio file attached in an email to ab4ws.radio@gmail.com.
Covering your amateur radio news and information in the greater Cincinnati, Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana tri-state area, this is Jack Prindle, AB4WS in Big Bone, Kentucky.